So here I am. I still have not been diagnosed. I'm working in an office job now. I'm helping out in the healing ministry, and I'm currently living with one of the leaders from our group. I am staying on her couch in the middle of transitions, moving from one home to another. And I pretty much didn't go anywhere or do anything. I was just too afraid. And I noticed things were a little off. Like, she was an amazing cook, and she would make this carrot zucchini cream sauce noodles, and I loved it, and it was amazing. And there were other times, most likely when I was stressed, which is really funny. It always happened when I was stressed. She would make the same food, and it just tasted awful. I couldn't eat it, and she would get upset with me. You ate it the other day. Why can't you eat it today? And I'm like, I don't know. Sorry. And then, like, restaurants. I always went to the same restaurant. I always ordered the same food. I just figured it was a me thing. I don't know. But one morning I woke up and my tires were flat in my car, and I had to deal with trying to get them fixed. And then she had sent me a message and said, hey, meet us at this restaurant before we head over to the meeting. And I'd never been to that restaurant before. I had no idea what even kind of food it was. But I said, okay. And I showed up at the restaurant, and you order at the counter and then go sit down. Well, there were no photos. There was no menu with photos. And I was trying to read the menu, and I couldn't read it. And it was in English. It wasn't like it was a foreign language. But for some reason, I couldn't read it. And I was still feeling stressful and anxious. And just, it was a really hard morning. And I walked over to her, and what are you guys eating? I don't know. We're getting some food. Like, she was not being very helpful. And I did not trust them enough to go, okay, I don't know what's going on with me, but I can't read the menu. Can someone help me? Like, I wished I would have felt that comfortable. I wished I would have been able to say that. But instead, I just spiraled inwardly and just went, you are stupid. You're such an idiot. You're not going to eat. And so I didn't eat. And that kind of stuff happened all the time. And it was frustrating, and I couldn't understand it. One of the other things I was terrified of was spiders. And I swear they knew it. I kid you not, every spider in the world was on the lookout for me. I would walk into a room and I could see the 5 spiders. Like, it's funny because now that years later, I don't see them anywhere. They're not here. Occasionally you'll see a spider, but not like I did during this season in my life. And I kid you not, they had radar for me. I'd be driving in my car down the freeway, and one would just come from the ceiling. Creeped me out. I'm just telling you, they were everywhere, and I was terrified of them. And one day, I'm in her living room, and we've got one of our friends visiting, and I freaked out when there's a spider, and they picked it up and threw it at me. Okay, you gotta understand, it wasn't a spider. It was a little black piece of fuzz, and I screamed, and they started laughing. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world that they scared me, and I'm like, I thought you just threw a spider at me, and they're like, wasn't a spider, it was a piece of fuzz. And I'm like, yes, but I thought it was a spider. And I was like near panicking and anxious, and they just kept laughing at me and taunting me. And I'm just like, I got really, really angry. I'm like, why are you making fun of me? This is one of my deepest, darkest fears is spiders. Like, why are you taunting me about this? And they just laughed, and the leader said something like, you have a religious spirit, and we're just going to piss it off, and we're going to laugh at you harder because it messes up religious spirits. And I was so confused. I was like, I am terrified of spiders. What does that have to do with a religious spirit? I don't understand you. Thankfully, I had agreed to house sit for a friend of mine, so I just packed up my stuff and I left. I was very wounded and very hurt and stressed out, and grabbed my stuff, and I drove to my friend's house. And on the way there, she was about a half hour away. On the way there, my hand just started burning and hurting, and I looked down, and it was swollen, and it was red, this red burning fire rash on my hand. And I'm like, where did this come from? And what the heck? And I'm like, as soon as I get to her house, I'll put some ice on it. I don't know what the heck I did. And so I get to her house, and I go inside and put some ice on it, and it just stings and it just burns. And it is probably 11 o'clock at night. And I mean, it is on fire. And I'm like, did I touch something? I don't know what I did to my wrist. And then I noticed that the rash moved up my arm. I kid you not. I could almost watch it move up and it is bright red, and it is swollen, and it is moving. And I was kind of freaked out, And see, normally when I would freak out, I would call this leader and I would ask her to pray for me. But she just taunted me forever and told me I was a religious spirit and was going to laugh at me until I figured it out and got rid of it. So I couldn't call her. I couldn't reach out and say, help. I don't know what the heck's going on with me, but I have this giant burning red rash and it's moving. And the next thing I knew, it was going up my neck. And it was going up my face, and it really hurt on my face. It just burned, and it was getting higher and higher. And I'm in a panicked fear. I'll tell you, to this day, I have no idea what that was, but it was real, and I wasn't the only one who saw it. I was desperate. What the heck can I do? I've got to get to an urgent care. I don't know what this is, but it is scaring me. Like, is it spiritual, or is it like I didn't know I had parts, but did it belong to one of my little ones? I don't know. Today, looking back over time, I have no idea what that was, except it was on fire and it was burning and it was crawling up my face. It had covered my ear, so I could barely hear out of this ear, and it was heading towards my eye, and I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to see. And how am I going to get to an urgent care if I can't see? So I did something that was really stupid, but I called my mother. She lived a couple blocks away from the house I was staying at, and I figured maybe, I know she wasn't available back when I was 19. I'm 26. Maybe she'll help me now. She doesn't live with that gentleman anymore. And so I got her on the phone and said, Mom, hi, I'm really, really afraid, and I'm really worried. I've got this really burning fire red rash. Is there any way you can come with me to urgent care? I am terrified I'm going to lose my sight. It's covering up my face and my eye. And she didn't. She couldn't. It was just, sorry, can't do it. Oh. So then I'm sobbing. I'm crying. Thanks for nothing, Mom, and hung up and just went, I have to call somebody. And I remembered one of my girlfriends who had gone to one of our retreats with us, and I called her. I said, I know it's after 11. I'm so sorry. This is what's going on, and I'm freaking out. Can you meet me in urgent care? And God bless her heart, she did. Went to urgent care, met her. On the way to urgent care, the rash had moved off my face and across my back. And by the time I got to urgent care, it was on this arm. And she saw it and just went, it looked horrid. And she got out her anointing oil and tried to pray for it. And it just burned like fire when she touched my arm. It was like, nah. And wasn't good. By the time we got in to see the doctor, it was on my leg. Like, literally, it was gone from here, and it had moved to my leg, and he saw it on my leg, and then he's like, okay, and we were talking for a little bit, and then, like, I kid you not, 5-10 minutes later, it had moved. And he that's about as confused as he looked. He had no idea what was going on, and he's like, I think you belong on the X-Files. And he walked out, got me some medication, and sent me home. Like that was it. Like, nothing really to help the rash, and it just kind of went away on its own. And I really wonder, was that part of one of the little ones? I know back when I was about 7 or 8, both of my legs had broken out in a giant swollen red rash like that for 6 months. And the doctors didn't know what to do with me back then. I just wonder if this had something to do with that. I'll never know. But it was rather creepy. Thanks for listening to my story. There's more to come.